next page, page 35, which is attachment 6, and that refers to rates-related issues. There weren't many submitters on rates this year. In fact, there were only 5, and those 5 made an observation, really, that rates should be held to CPI. Now, they have mentioned CPI. In my reply to them, which is on page 38. 38. I've oh no, it isn't.
I was going to say
36. Thank you. Page 36 is that in the local government sector we use the local government cost index, and it's well documented in the consultation document, which has been on the web and gone out to most parties. But it's the government cost index, which is a basket of goods that local councils purchase under. Now that local government cost index is 1.9%. It is low. CPI is maybe just marginally lower than that, but that cost index is low. It's 1.9%. The submitters would say it should only be 1.9%, which relates to a cost index. I've alluded to the rate is actually it's actually 3.05% higher than the cost index, and the most significant reason for that is the additional 300,000 for tourism promotion, and that relates to over 2% of that increase of the 3. So I've said it's for tourism promotion and other service adjustments. So the proposal is the rate increase be left.
We can't decide on a rates increase at this stage.
No, you can't.
No. So do we need
just
to
leave that on the table.
Note to receive, or just leave it on the table?
Well, until later on. I just wanted to give my explanation while I was
while you were here. Okay, no, that's fair. Okay, so we'll deal with that probably towards the end, I would suggest.
Yeah, because the rate increase is proposed increase is 4.95 at the moment. And the cost index is 1.9. I think CPI is less than that, and that most of that is because of fuel, actually. Fuel decrease, which is incidentally is starting to go back up again. So if we turn to attachment 8, which is page 41, which is this list of funding requests. Now, Mr. Chairman, I think Manton's got a list of an approach for that. So we'd like to come up, Manton, if you got it for that. Yeah, we'll load it up there. So what we've got, and it will be loaded soon, is a list of submitters' requirements for assistance and the amount of that assistance, and it's just good to be able to keep track of and what Manton's done is he's had a look at these requests and the impact that they would have on rates if indeed council chose to fund some. So in the green up there you've got the rates which we've just spoken about, which is 4.95%, and then Manton's got underneath that external submissions and the requests, and we'll track through those. But he's also got, if they were approved, then the impact they would have on rates. Now there's 2 options there. One is on rates if they were to be approved. The other one is just to put it on the bottom line, which is currently a break-even bottom line for 16-17.
Plan yet. I can't see any justification for an increase in funding. I see no justification for any increase in funding to Business Hawke's Bay, given the fact that the REDS plan has not been finalised or made public, and they indicated that they don't even really know what their role is or may be in that, and that it was business as usual at the moment. So on that basis, I'd move that there be no increase in funding to Business Hawke's Bay.
Okay, if there's no questions around that.
Sorry,
Is there-
Mr.
I'm
Chairman,
just not
this
sure
is on
this is-
page 38, if those are looking for it. It's not actually under the section, but it is on the table, up on the screen, but it is actually under the section on submission points received in relation to Business Hawke's Bay and Tourism Hawke's Bay funding. So it's page 38 if you wish to read the officer's comments on that.
I think Councillor Dick raises a good point, but is this the way we want to deal with this in a piecemeal type manner, or would you like to have a discussion on what's on the board in total and how we might
I find
get...
it helpful going through one by one, but are we able to speak? I mean, are we in questions, or can we just speak on our thoughts? Or, like Councillor Dick's just spoken about Business Hawke's Bay and his thoughts. How do you want to work this?
Well, I think if it's there is a large quantum of money there. I think for the sake of the discussion, it'd be helpful if you could ask questions, but let's actually just have our thoughts and go through it. I think would be a way of dealing with it on the whole, and then we'll deal with each paper individually as we go through to make the decisions.
Could I just make another suggestion? It seems to me that one of the key questions we've got to answer is how big a rate increase are we prepared to agree on?
Mm.
And once we've decided on that, we then decide whether we're going to, what we can do with whatever that is. Or are we going to go through and say, well, we agree with this, don't agree with that, agree with this, don't agree. And then at the end of it say, oh, the rate increase is much bigger than we thought it was going to be, and have to go back and rework it. That's right, I just think we've got to be, what's the goal here?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if
Give due consideration to the submissions and the merit of them.
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is a little bit more complicated than the way it's put out there, which is impact on rates. By way of an observation, we have a sum of $112,000 for targeted assistance already in the budget, and that's looked after by the Chief Executive. It's one of her projects, and she's indicated here on quite a few of these pages what that money's put aside for. Now, some of those small amounts may or may not be able to be taken from there, and Liz will talk on that. The other bit that I would like to just talk about before we get into the detail is where we've got borrowing costs. Waipatiki Camping Ground borrowing costs and the Wairoa District Council, they've asked for a walkway. That's the bottom three lines. $500,000 for the walkway, $500,000 for education centre, and $100,000 for the boardwalk. What we've put up there is because for requests like those four, we have borrowed for them, and we pay them off over a 10-year time frame, and they're paid off out of the sale of land non-investment account. A lot of you will be familiar with that one. The funding for the sale of land non-investment account is from our investments, and there's $1 million transferred from our investment account to the non-investment account. Now, the long-term plan's got 5 or 6 years, I think, of that $1 million transfer coming over. If we were to approve these as an additional part of that strategy, then that transfer would have to continue for another year or so.
Is that transfer still actually happening?
Yes.
I thought it
Yes,
had been fully used up.
No, that transfer is in the LTP for next 5 years, Benton? Yeah, next 5 years.
So just remind us again how it originates.
It originates quite a number of years ago. We looked at moving investment money into a fund for open space and targeted assistance. And the way we calculated what we could move over is to look at our leasehold land, and it was the increase in the value of the leasehold land over and above the I think it was the CPI or the normal, it was the CPI. And of course land was going up considerably more than CPI, and it still is, because land is that sort of investment. So we took $1 million from that increase over.
So it's the funding source is from the sale of leasehold.
Funding sources from the sale of leasehold, and the strategy is to use some of our investments for regional open space development.
And that same fund also was the Major Facilities Fund.
That's correct, yeah. But the facilities part was a 6 million
So even though
fund.
we sold the cash flows to ACC, and we have to repay, when leasehold properties are sold, we have to repay ACC, there's still enough fund generation to
Well, there
go
isn't.
into that account.
Yeah, there is in the account at the moment because it's 66 million. But the LTP in the years 3, 4 and 5 used the sale of Wellington leasehold to fund that. And the sale of the Wellington leasehold will happen probably in the next LTP. The values of land in Wellington will have gone up, and we'll be proposing to sell that. That's the funding source for this.
That's the funding source for this.
Or for the a portion of that will be used for this.
Are you saying, is that, because some of these items are capital items, so that's
Yes.
transfer of capital, and some of them are operational or
Well,
items.
sorry, no, none of them are capital.
Yeah,
They're
no,
all
no.
grants, aren't they?
Yeah, but no, the Waipatiki will be on title, will be third on
That's true. That's true.
title. So that's definitely a capital item.
Yeah, that's definitely, yeah.
And, well, it's a capital item, it relates back to our balance sheet, but you could even define some of that stuff in Wairau as a capital item as well.
Or regional capital item.
Regional capital
Yeah,
item. It doesn't go onto our balance sheet, but it goes onto the regional.
That's correct, yeah.
So I was just wondering whether we don't look at these things as some are total operational, and some are pure capital onto our balance sheet, and
Yeah.
some are regional
Capital,
CapEx.
yeah. That's quite
And
a
they're quite
quite a
different.
worthwhile distinction.
Yeah, and it allows us to justify that kind of transfer.
Yeah, no, I agree, Councillor. Yeah. It's good structure.
Sorry, I'm still confused, Mr. Chairman. So the source of this fund is no longer from Napier leaseholds.
We do retain some of the the Napier leasehold sale price because ACC are 4 years into the contract, and there's also a provision in there that we do retain some, but it would be in the hundreds of thousands we would
And
retain.
and that money goes into
Into
the
this-
Open Space Community Facilities Fund.
Well, that fund goes into the money we get from the sale of leasehold land. Portion goes to ACC. Our portion goes into the sale of land investment, and that's used to fund the transfer to the non-investment, or portion of it.
A portion of
Yeah.
it.
There is a shortfall over the next few years for that transfer, because the transfer is $1 million. But as I said, the strategy was to fund that from the sale of
So you'll
the Wellington.
pick up that shortfall when Wellington leaseholders.
Yes, yes. There's
So,
enough in there to do.
so Paul, are you implying that there is sufficient resource for us to actually do some form of a top-up into that open spaces or facilities fund, which might cover some of this?
Yes, yes.
And if that's the case,
it's
how
over-
much money are we talking about that you think we could use in that way? Not necessarily all this year.
No, the effect of these transactions, Manton's got up there, the effect in 16-17 is, on those bottom items, 54, is that for a half year or a full year? Half year. 54,000 this year, and it would be 100,000 the following year. There's enough in the sale of land account to cushion that for 2 or 3 years until such time as we look at the sale of the Wellington properties.
We can actually go on merit.
Yes.
Can I ask a question about the table, which I can't read? Is it possible, A, to make it bigger, but B, I can't marry what I think I'm reading for the Wairau District Council to what is actually on page 54?
Yeah, wait a minute. Lines 23, 24, 25 are what Wairau District Council asked for, and they asked for 3 sums of money from recollection.
Yeah.
The cycleway walkway 500,000,
Yep.
and the education centre contribution 500,000, and the boardwalk 100,000. Now, you will recall that we have paid them 500,000 for their pool, their pool. Yeah, and we did that about 6 months
So
ago.
where do we end up with the figure in the column over there relating to what they're asked for and its impact on rates?
Well, I'm saying it doesn't need to be an impact on rates for those figures, because we've just talked about how we fund that type of open space capital sort of development. It can be it can be an impact on rates if you so choose, but at the moment that open space contribution and development has been funded differently. It's been funded from a transfer from our investment.
Could I just ask a simple question here? It seems to me that you've got this right. Rather than transfer them the cash, we borrow the money from the bank, we charge the interest rate against our balance sheet, and then when we sell some property and so on, we get the capital gain out of that. The capital gain out of the property sale goes to pay off the debt to the bank, and we're square.
That's right. Yeah.
That's what's been proposed here.
Yeah. Well, you could do that. Yeah.
Councillor Hewitt.
Thank you. Paul, why have you not done the same thing with the Community Trust Central Hawke's Bay multi-turf?
Good question. We would do the same thing. And why haven't I done it?
And are you able to
Yeah.
get that in there, and will the
Well, there's 100,000 on that
Spreadsheet.
bottom line, isn't it? Yeah.
will the
So it'll
spreadsheet
be
accommodate
double
that movement?
line 25. It'll be double line 25, which is 100,000. Yeah. So it'll be 20,000 in the first year and 40,000 the next year. But one related to sports and the other related to open spaces. So what I've got up there is a borrowing for open space, but not for sports. And part of the reasoning, and was only staff reasoning, is in the staff recommendation, and I allude to basically turning that down, or recommending it be turned down, because that's in line with what happened with the, or will be consistent with the velodrome request.
Except that the velodrome wasn't in the facilities plan, the Hawke's Bay Sport Facilities Plan, and this one is. So I'd suggest the reasoning's a little different.
Yep. Could be right.
I mean, we keep talking about open spaces fund, but the bulk of the money has actually been spent on the major community facilities segment of it. So I think that fund is appropriately titled Community Facilities / Open Spaces Fund, and should be available for supporting both those types of projects, if we can justify it.
Yeah.
Could I just raise a broader question at this point? These, when you add them up year on year, come to some quite substantial sums of money. And the thing that I have here, a deep worry I have here in my head is, again, this notion of opportunity cost. If we were to give this amount of money away, and we all feel good about it, you know, we've got the stuff going on in Central Hawke's Bay, so we did a great job down there. We go to Wairoa, so we did these 3 things for Wairoa. We all feel good about it. We get all of that, you know. But what I want to have in my head is that, have we made the best choice for using that money for the region? That if we were to put that sum of money over the years to a project here or there or somewhere else, what would we get? And I don't see this sort of discussion in this. I just see us rolling on with this. We just respond to requests that come in and we dole out some money. And I'm not a person who feels comfortable in that space, being pushed and shoved by things. I think at some point, not today, but some time in the future, this council is going to have a discussion about what it does and how it handles these things.
Well, it starts today, though.
But there's no strategic vision in this.
Councillor, yesterday you repetitively said that we've got to listen to submitters, and that's what we're here for. This is an annual plan where we consider submissions.
I thought there was another request from some trust, I can't remember what it was called, in Wairau, that was for like.
Young Achievers Trust. That
Playground.
was for the playground.
Yeah.
Yep. So that was for.
Sort of like half a
We
million.
haven't captured it because it came in late.
Yeah.
Well, it was-
100,000. No,
Yeah, it was-
I've got
Apparently it was
100,000
sent early, but it arrived late.
It's still hasn't arrived.
We can't do all those Wairau projects. Let's be
No.
Well,
realistic.
if you want to deal with Wairau now, and happy to lead the conversation, but we're actually doing a scoping study that the regional council's paying for right now, which is not finished, on what their infrastructure needs may be going forward. There seems to be a besotted with the rockets at the moment, and that's fine, and it's a national opportunity. I get all that stuff, but until we work out what infrastructure is there and what's needed, what opportunities there are. They've got a guy, Bamford, doing the work, and he's done all the work for Tuho. He's very good. We're paying the lion's share of that. In fact, I don't think Wairau District Council's paying anything to that. I'm very happy about that, actually. But until we get that stuff, why would we commit $500,000 to a space centre, whatever it was called, when it may or may not be needed or happen? I don't know. So,
Yeah, I'd just like to make a comment though, just before,
I'm not saying we write them off.
Yeah,
at
I've
all.
thought a lot about this. I mean, I wasn't around when you had that $6 million fund, but I was a recipient in terms of the sports park, and that's had a big effect on the sports park. I mean, that money that, as Councillor Barker said, we doled out. When you go to Wairau and you see what they did with that 500,000, it's quite remarkable, and had a big, we are a big, powerful organisation which spreads right throughout Hawke's Bay, and it gives us a certain responsibility, but it also gives us a privilege too. You go to Wairau and you see the effect of that money, and the effect on the kids and the people that are active there, and the life-changing things that have occurred. It has a big impact, and I think we need to think about that when we do these sort of things, because it is real. And that playground, and I was a big supporter, I mean, that could be, that could change the life of a couple of kids that stay out of jail instead go to university. You just don't know. So I think we do have a big responsibility, and I don't know how easy that was, but or even how you got to create and borrow that, but it's an easy way of doing it if you if financially managing it. And also it's another way of looking at it. You've also got that capex there. Some of these are capital issues, which are probably a lot easier for us to do. The hard one on the table today is Matatini, and we need a very hard. We need a big discussion around that. But I just want, as we go through this, consider the impact of that $6 million. Whoever its idea was, it was a brilliant idea, and had a big impact.
And it was also intended at the time to, in fact, get us out of the granting business by, helping establish across the region some.
That back on?
Sorry. Why don't we allocate 500,000 provisionally for Wairau, subject to the completion of that plan, and for subsequent, for capital works and for subsequent.
Well, I'll add another flavour to it though.
Yeah.
I couldn't help but think all day yesterday, Wairau District Council are not changing their long-term plan. They've written the word partner all through the document, but they're not putting anything up, other than what they already have. I know they're a bit testy about this. They have a lot more money in the bank than we do. Yeah, they do. So, on that basis, I tend to agree with Alan, but let's just be a bit circumspect here. That I had this conversation with the Mayor last night. You come down here expecting us to put a 7 or 8% rate increase in for Wairau across the whole region, and you guys aren't doing anything. Pretty hard for me to fly that flag around this table. I've had that conversation with him. I don't mind having it publicly now. And, you know, I just see a bit of a feature he's putting into the Wirral Star today, which is not particularly helpful.
Well, I mean, they can't say we're doing nothing for them. Look at all the work that's going on rail.
Well, all of that. But look, if there was a way to make a provision and we had a way of dealing with it without putting a rate increase in through a capital project of some sort, I'd be all for that. But we do need to have a bit more meat on the bones around the scoping study of what's happening up there, which, you know, I'm very happy that we're a part of that. So and I don't want to turn them off or write them off. We need to, Wirral needs its share too, absolutely. But we've got to do it in a measured way.
Would you move that, Mr. Chairman, as the Wirral representative, and I'll second it.
Well, when we get to there,
Well,
I'm more than happy to move
We need to
it.
make some progress. We're
Well,
not
we
going to
do.
be here till 6 o'clock tonight.
No.
Is it possible to ask a question?
Yes, Councillor Scott.
Can we please add the other two Waira, which were both commended by the Mayor yesterday? And that was the destination playground and the water front enhancement plan, which is a huge sum, which they've left totally open-ended as if we'd fund the lot.
But remember, we did that. That was our work.
Our plan.
That was our plan. And my request to the Mayor was I wanted the Wirral District Council to back what we were doing so we could actually get on with it, because without local support it makes it hard. It does need to go up there, but Wirral District Council didn't back it. Upstream Wirral, which is the little chamber group, backed it, which makes it so we're still not sure whether the District Council's behind it or not, other than complimentary commentary, if you like.
Can I propose, just as an in the thing of moving it along, we talk about Waipatiki, because Waipatiki is a CapEx item and you don't need to, it has no rate of impact. So it might be an easier discussion.
Well, it's the way we've structured it. It has no rate impact because
That's right.
because the proposal is to use the fund.
Yeah, so that one, we can justify it on, it's a capital item, using capital to do it. Two other councils, are they in or not? You know,
Hastings is. I'm not
Hastings
sure about Napier.
is.
Not sure about Napier. No, look. Are you happy to move in that direction?
I am happy that we do become a partner in the Waipatiki project, subject to the two other councils being in as equal partners.
You're happy to second that?
I'll second that and just say that I understand that
So what? Hang on, we're going to move in a second. You wish to speak further on that?
I do, and would also like to make it. I think it's a very good. It's a good price. They've negotiated. They worked really hard as a team to make that happen. It goes into public ownership forever. So I approve of that. One of the I wanted also subject that Paul can make it happen out as a CapEx item. That it does not. It is not subject to rates.
It's from the Open Spaces Fund.
It's from whatever fund you want. Like Alan's, yeah. It's from capital.
Seconder. Sorry, excuse me with your microphone.
I would support this for all those reasons. It's a very good decision, and one that's easy to come to. I just make the observation that, as I understand it, the Napier City Council are having a presentation at 1 o'clock today on this very issue, and people would be keen to know what our decision was. It would be helpful. So if we could leave it up to us to make a decision, and
Well,
you
we'll-
can tell them and we can get on with it.
We'll
Emailing them now, you were emailing Wayne.
And Napier?
but then Napier, I'd email. Well, actually, we're in discussion, so you email quietly over there. Without saying anything, Mr. Adey, please. And I'd like to actually, I too support this on the basis that for the last 4 years I've been in this discussion. Hastings have led it, but they've been very reluctant to do the whole thing on their own, and actually for good reason when you get down to it. to come to an end point on this, I've raised it a couple of times in workshops, etc., if you remember, but we've never really gotten serious about it. The fact that the owner has been, in my view, they've been very generous in the price. They started at around about 2 million, now they're down to 900,000, which was the original Hastings District Council, they led that, not us, valuation they had done. The outcome of it remaining in public ownership is commendable. We're losing these sort of places. It's actually what we're here for, so I'm very happy to support a third share in that project.
Could we add on to it that, as well as it being subject to co-funding, subject to agreement on ownership, entity and governance structure?
So so that's a second point. So we'll just for our scribe, can we get that
Don't want to just give it to Hastings.
before we vote?
Subject to ownership and governance.
We're a bit all over the show here.
I know.
No.
Let's get some more.
Question?
Let's get some order back in there. Go on then.
How much is in the open spaces fund?
Well, it's
I'm assuming the how much is currently available in there before this decision. There is, I think, about 400,000 spread over 3 or 4 years. Yeah. Yeah, it's been spread 160,000 for each year through the LTP, and that's to operate, to actually operate and enhance our current regional parks. I believe you're the expert on regional parks.
Yeah, that was approved by council sometime earlier this year or late last year.
So there's a surplus between 160 and what was the other figure?
400.
No, from memory, the long-term plan had we went into the long-term plan with something like about 400,000 out of the previous facility fund, and then the proposal was to borrow a further $1 million over the time of the LTP, and it divided it up into 160,000 per year in order to be able to operate and maintain the current parks.
That committed that money.
That is committed to the program that was set out in front of us.
So we can't go and rate into that.
No.
So, but you're still saying there's extra funding available that would enable us to fund without rate impact some of these projects.
Yeah, the correct me if I'm wrong. The operating, the open space initiative in the long-term plan was funded by through general funds. That's right, isn't it? It was funded through general funds. Didn't go into this sale of land non-investment.